I'm here at USAR 2014 at UCLA, and I'm speaking with Paolo Galili.
Hi, Paolo.
Hi.
Now, your work specifically, I believe, is in biostatistics. Is that correct?
So my first degree was statistics and philosophy. The second degree was biostatistics, and my master's degree was in biostatistics, and now I'm working on my PhD in statistics.
Okay. I was surprised to hear philosophy. What was the emphasis in philosophy?
So actually, there were 3 tracks inside it. One was cognitive sciences, the second one was Indian philosophy, and the third one was philosophy of science.
And did you do all 3, or did you do?
Yeah. There are 3 consecutive. There were like tiny tastes of each one of them. I felt like I wanted to do statistics in something that I would find less boring, because I didn't know what statistics was. At hindsight, I would probably do statistics and computer science, but well, I know that now.
So what does your current R workflow look like?
So I think it's very similar to many people in the community at this point. I have my preferred IDE, which is RStudio. I actually use 3 IDEs at the same time. Usually I use the R GUI, I use Notepad, and I use RStudio. And the reason for that is that sometimes I just use R as a calculator for very simple stuff, so I'm not going to fire up RStudio just for that. Yep. So I just turn up the R GUI and use it for that. Then sometimes I play with code and I want to have syntax highlighting, but I don't want to have the overhead of RStudio as much, because sometimes it's slower. For example, for very complex computation, sometimes I don't want to have RStudio crash on me in the middle of a very long simulation. So I would pipe it through our Notepad, and there is a nice plugin called NPP2R, which allows you to just write things in Notepad. It has syntax highlighting, and you just mark it and sends it to the R GUI, open in the background. But for more well thought out projects where I have a document that I want to create as an output, not a simulation, I would usually use RStudio with knitr, either with R Markdown or with LaTeX.
Okay. So you've been programming in R for how long now?
I think 7 years.
So
I think 7 or 8 years.
If you could go back in time,
yes,
to the 1-year programmer version of you.
So 7 years ago or now?
So you right
because
now,
I would have different conversations now with someone who is starting and someone who were starting 7 years ago.
That's a great point. So if you could, let's talk both. So if you can go back 7 years,
yes,
and talk to that 7 years ago person,
yes,
what would be your advice? What would be your conversation?
Wow. Don't invest much in TNR because it's going to go away. That was an idea that didn't survive. What would I say to myself 7 years ago? Difficult to say. So many changes have been done. I would probably say to myself 7 years ago, don't bother, just invest more in the statistics, learn the theory, less the computational side, and deal with it afterwards, after it's all sorted out. And in a sense, it's something to think about also today, because we have so many technologies jumping on us from all directions that, in a way, I think today, if you don't need to study a technology for your own use case and you're not really going to work with it, try to focus on things that are older, that are more mature, that are more theoretically solid, and work with them, because things are so changing that if you don't need to play with it, let it be until it's sorted out by people who have to use it. Which I don't know if that means I'm getting older now, because at the time I was so into cutting edge, and now I feel like I don't want to get cut. I want to do stuff that works for what I need to do.
Sure.
So that would be at the time. These days, I would say to people, start out just with RStudio, because it's just such an incredible working environment. I would say to them also that if they want to supplement their studies, go with probably C++, because I think that it's a fascinating way of empowering R. What else would I say?
Would you give yourself any advice about, from the community building, blogging, aggregation standpoint?
Yeah, I think that generally I would like to see more people being social in any way they can. I think that actually that's a good point to say. Learn to create packages as soon as possible. And I wouldn't say that 7 years ago, because it was such a headache to do. But these days, with the incredible work that's been done by Hadley and Yihoy and JJ and other people in our studio and other people outside, it's so easy to create your own R package. And I think, the good set of tools a person want to have as they're getting into the R world is know the basics of R, feeling comfortable with different packages for their use cases, using something like RStudio, knowing how to use version control in Git, which is incredibly important, and people don't study it at the beginning, but it's very important. Reproducible research and literate programming using NeetR is incredibly valuable and important. And each one of these things that I've said are things that I've not done, and that I've suffered the consequences, and have made sure to not repeat the mistake. Starting from having a researcher come back to me a year or 2 years after I'd done an analysis and ask, oh, change the color. And I would be like, what? I don't know where I did that. I have so many different files, I don't know how I've done it. Or having a change of code and then thinking to myself, why the hell did that now break? And all these things are resolved if you have a good workflow that you can work with in R.